Hey, it's Ed from CG Pro. I am here at Drexel University with my good friend Nick Jushchyshyn, who is a good friend and professor at Drexel University. He was one of the first students at CG Pro as well. So it's a real pleasure to be here with you and see amazing stuff that you've accomplished in the last number of years, and just full circle being able to come and visit and be here in person.
Yeah, thanks for stopping by. I'm so glad when you went to the Cesium event here in Philly that we were able to connect and you could come by. So that's really, really cool. And the full circle piece of it for me is always fun to revisit, because it was actually a former student, an alumni from Drexel, that introduced us, because he had worked on some of the films that you had worked on, Jungle Book, Lion King, and I was in the midst of digging deeper and deeper into virtual production, and he introduced us. And then Jackie had already done the Epic Fellowship, and at about the time we got introduced, I got to do the fellowship, and then got to do some stuff with you and Jackie, and we've been friends for years ever since. And so we usually run into each other elsewhere in the world, whether it's like SIGGRAPH in other countries and Ultra or Unreal Fests. We always run into each other. So it's really cool to have you here in person, you know, in our studio, and just in time, because we just got the LED wall. It doesn't have to just say Drexel. We can switch it over to CG Pro since Ed's here. Yeah, there we go. Cool.
There we go. It has the CG Pro inner circle thing on the background. I have to say, here.
I remember being on one of these very, very early on. Yeah. I see William Fauci here. I remember I was on at about the same time, but I don't see my face in here.
There's more.
I don't know.
There's more faces.
I don't know. I'm looking at the dark ones, but look at that. Nikhil's a good friend of mine. So yeah, I don't know why I'm not on the, I'm a little offended.
Were you? Okay, we're gonna comp that in afterwards. But yeah, you're still on the promo material for the inner circle. And it's a pleasure to be here. I mean, I really we started this not totally knowing where it was going, and some of the people like yourself who were really early to it, we were one of the only people doing, if not the only people doing, virtual production training at that time, and seeing the early adopters, the people who were there at the beginning of our classes, some of the people who have taken it the furthest. It's awesome. Yeah. And what I love about what you've done is the multiplier effect, because you're here training the next generation of people coming through college, and not just teaching them the history of what me and you did in the visual effects world, but where this is going with virtual production and other technologies.
Yeah,
very
I think
cool.
One of the big things, it might seem strange to folks that, I teach at this big university and you teach at your own school, and it's like, why are these two different schools? They're talking to each other. Aren't they competitors? But the real philosophy underlying all of this is both of us have this idea that throughout our industry experience, we're always learning more. There's no stopping the learning. And even now that we're instructors, that doesn't end. And actually, again, I didn't anticipate that you'd be at the Cesium event, which is focused on geospatial tiling and visualization for all kinds of construction, architectural, and defense type of scenarios. And I saw on LinkedIn, hey, wait a minute, you're there, and that's fantastic. And so, even you have industry work that you're still doing today. You're one of the people that I respect and learned from, as I was picking up on Unreal Engine. And but here you are in Philly, learning a whole new industry. Yeah. And that I think it's good to demonstrate that philosophy at work of we're both always in contact and hey, I learned a new thing. Let me show you guys this, and that hopefully ends up in some of your material and vice versa.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's really as a community that makes this work. And the interesting thing about being at Cesium is that I transitioned from the world of software engineering. And when I was a software engineer, I was a GIS software engineer. So I actually, and this year is the 20th anniversary of Google Earth. And when I left GIS software engineering full time, we were just incorporating Google Earth into the product that I made called Geoscope. And I was a full-on map nerd, and I've always been ever since, but seeing all of these worlds coming together and being able to be back with my old community effectively, and seeing how even that work is being used in media and entertainment. People are using things like Google Earth and Cesium as scouting tools in the film industry, and even with augmenting the results of that through AI and some other techniques, people are starting to use it more and more even in that industry. It's not just purely the engineering communities, it's also the entertainment industry that's I was maybe one of the only few at this event, but I would imagine that's starting to change. And,
no, it is definitely part of what we use here and that I teach here. In fact, last year we had a pretty big project where we worked with athletics to do sports broadcasting with them. Yeah. And, it wasn't lost on us that cesium was used for the broadcast of the last Summer Olympics. And there were a lot of interstitials in between events where a camera would fly around Paris to, France and off to Tahiti for the surfing and all of that. And the underlying technology for that was cesium's technology. And,
cool.
The fact that they're just based here in Philly, the founder graduated from UPenn right across the street. Yeah. And we're actually really good friends. We have a number of alumni that work with both cesium as well as there's a nonprofit group that's that partners with them quite a bit that's called Create Access, that actually introduces computer science to high school kids and younger kids in the Philadelphia area by using like Unreal Engine and Unreal Engine for Fortnite. Yeah. So all of this stuff works together. And when we were doing our athletics program, we were using cesium to do Philadelphia backdrops and do a similar kind of Olympic style. Like our athletics are like, there's a lacrosse field in one location and basketball and swimming are in another and softball's in yet another location. And, we have crew out on the river. And so we could do that same kind of stuff with Unreal Engine and their tool set. So all of this stuff is one big tool set. Yeah. And it's good from my perspective, for the students to be able to see that all of these things work together. And, if entertainment is the way you want to go, great. These tools will help you in getting into entertainment. If entertainment is going through some turmoil, there might be some applications in architecture that could use your help. So it's really tremendously useful.
Yeah, it's time, and every other aspect of life changes what we're doing and what's important and what's in trouble, what's booming at various different times. I've spent, when I said I came from engineering in the beginning and went into the media and entertainment industry 20 years ago, but even since then have dipped back into the engineering communities over the years. Last job I had was with a car company, a race car championship, and it was, I think it's really useful and important actually at this point for not just people who've yet to get into an industry, but also for people who've been in the industry for a while to realize that there are other options and there are other things to do. And in my opinion, they can be just as fun, or sometimes even more fun. As long as you're in love with the actual things that you're doing, the end result is the product or the movie or the thing that comes out the other end. But the process is quite similar between all of these different things, and the skill sets and the tools that you learn are very transferable. Absolutely. And they can be just as fun. I think it's something that prevents people from wanting to dip a toe in the other world is partly they might think that they don't have the right skills or that they might not enjoy it. But just having a go is the only way that you really find that out.
And it can be tremendously rewarding as well. Yeah. So, as an example for us, the nursing college is directly across the street from us. And with all of the new developments in metahumans and Unreal Engine, we're seeing a lot of possibilities there in terms of implementing the technologies that we use in forms of medical training, right, and simulations and interaction. And it's a lot safer to work with a virtual human on your first go arounds a few times before,
you're doing surgery.
Minor detail. It's interesting because one of my mentors, Alex Lindsay, was stressed out over a shot working on Star Wars when he was at ILM, and his supervisor John basically said, we're not doing brain surgery. I almost feel like it might not be that long when, part of what we do, like there's a neurological lab that we work with all the time.
I think it's already happening a bit. Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. So I think it's an exciting time industry-wise, and I'm really glad that you came by to visit and see our little LED studio, because again, we've kind of been growing in our own directions at the same time over these last, half a dozen years or so.
Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit about where we are and what you've got here.
Yeah, so we're in what is the Westfall College of Media, Art, and Design. So Drexel is a pretty large university of engineering, education, all that. But this college, this building focuses on media, art, and design. And this studio is our main virtual production stage. And the most recent addition is our LED wall virtual production system. So ta-da, yeah. So, as LED wall goes, it's not huge. It's not like an Amazon style or Netflix style. But this is large enough at 20 feet wide, 10 feet high, that we can certainly do, we can do all.
It's not tiny either. I mean, you can do all kinds of shots with a wall of this size, and we have learn everything that you would need to know about how this field of work or this new medium works. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, one of the things that it actually proved out is that prior to having the install of the LED wall, our students have been working with rear projection instead. So we'd wheel out a projection wall here. We'd have like 10-foot space behind it where projectors were hitting it.
Yeah, I remember you doing that. Yeah,
and explaining to the students like everything up to the end of this, DVI or DisplayPort cable is identical.
Yeah,
and then the end of the DisplayPort cable is going into a projector here. It's going into a Brompton controller when we get the LED wall.
Yeah,
and I think the most exciting thing for me was that when the LED wall arrived, students that had been working on projects on rear projection were the ones that stepped up and said, yeah, we'll take our spring break, come in, build the wall with you.
Cool.
They built the wall, and
Amazing.
Within hours of the wall being standing, they had their material up, and we actually did a virtual production shot with moving camera on the LED wall based on everything they had already become familiar with Unreal Engine and the Vicon system. So the nice thing is that we built this studio back when our mutual friend, Girish, was a grad student here. We moved into this studio, and during that time, we installed the Vicon system and a green screen cyclorama that you can't really see the green screen, but it's off to the side.
Kind of if I turn the camera around.
Yeah. And
I'll do a little loop here.
And that was the beginning, because I came out of a traditional digital feature film background, and the idea of virtual production was so new at the time. There's some of the students, by the way.
Yeah, want to say hi?
So yeah, we've got Luke in the front, we've got John and Nikki in the back, and John and Nikki were involved in building it. Luke is our next generation of student. He'll be a senior this coming year. So, for those that need more virtual production help, be sure to look for Luke in about a year from now when he graduates.
He's in the corner now.
Yeah, he's absorbing all of this. But, again, this full circle, Girish was actually involved in building this studio.
Oh, cool.
And back then we envisioned like motion capture and green screen should be together, and like his thesis project was all virtual production, and that's what opened my eyes to it. At the first, like I hadn't even thought of it until I saw what Girish was working on for his thesis, and it was as the years progressed, like this is getting bigger and bigger, and now that's really all I do at this point. And now we have the LED wall, we have green screen, Vicon's all in the same space, and the students get to work with this regularly. I mean, we have classes in this going all the time. So I'm excited. Again, I think I shared with you that I saw a recording of a class that you had done with Wolfie out in LA. And at one point, Wolfie talks about like, well, this is what the rental cost of this space would be, here in LA. And, I don't know how current that is, but at the same time, as soon as I had that number, it's like, that's how much value I get for my students every single day we use this.
Yeah,
and
your students are really lucky
valuable.
having this one here. Yeah. We work with a lot of colleges, and not all that many of them have a wall or even a projection ability. So it's really cool to see that you've got this, but also the green, because that's still very heavily used in the industry, and having mocap and all of this in the same sandbox, and some good camera equipment and lighting and all the things that you need to be able to understand.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we just keep growing from here.
Yeah, amazing. Well, I appreciate you having me here. It's
Thanks
really
for coming.
Yeah, of course. It's amazing, kind of full circle, being able to be back here and hearing some of the history as well with our mutual friend Girish Balakrishnan, who I got to work with on a couple of movies on Lion King and Jungle Book, and I think I saw him when he was at Side Effects as an intern doing VCam, and
that was his thesis.
It's cool to hear that, see some of the beginnings of how the things that emerged from Avatar and through people that I've worked with and you, and seeing where it's going next, it's still evolving, you know. And now, like, I'm sure that you're probably exploring all the AI stuff that's wandering in, and
all the time.
Yeah.
And, you know, and it keeps on growing. And I know you have a crazy busy year ahead of you, so we probably won't get to cross paths in SIGGRAPH Vancouver this year, but
yeah,
next year's SIGGRAPH is in your home turf, LA.
Yeah.
So I'm involved in that conference, and so
Yeah.
I'll definitely be in LA for that. And so we'll definitely have to get together then.
Absolutely. Yeah, I really always am impressed by how much you give back to the community as well, both through the work that you do here and also working with SIGGRAPH, which I know is a volunteer effort for the most part of that community, and full of people like us who are passionate about computer graphics and want to share it with the next generation. And it's going through a lot of change right now.
And it always has.
Yeah.
I mean, again, for myself, I moved into feature film industry at a time when it was transitioning from film to digital. And it was my knowledge of computers that helped me make that transition in, because I would know as much about, you know, computer programming as someone who had been in the film industry for 10 years. So I, you know, was able to leverage that to get into what was my dream career.
Yeah.
And so, you know, staying on top of the newest technologies, being able to use that as a foothold to, you know, help my students break into the industries that they're interested in getting into is definitely near and dear to my heart. And, you know, I was able to get through that hurdle through the, you know, support of mentors. You know, you're more recent, but, you know, again, you know, folks like Alex Lindsay, you know, a lot of folks from
Office Hours, you guys are still doing that.
Yeah, we're still doing that. Yeah. So, you know, there's a lot of people at ILM in particular, they were very giving in terms of a culture.
Yeah.
And, you know, I learned a ton from folks that were ILM, Pixar at the time. And that instilled in me, like, okay, this is the culture, and I'm living that today. And I still, like, when I go to SIGGRAPH today, even though, like, I'm involved in some of the committee work these days, it's still like I see people who are the idols, like the people that were celebrities in my mind. Like, that's John Knoll. I mean, that's Paul Debevec.
I bumped into Ed Catmull a couple of SIGGRAPHs ago, and got to say, like, thanks for helping inspire me to get into the industry, and we're all passing the torch on to the next generation. I really appreciate the amount of effort that you put into that, particularly because, you know, being at a college, I can tell that you're very hungry. You're always out there learning more, which is what we always have to do as educators. We're not just teaching everything that we knew before this point. We're always evolving and learning. So yeah,
exactly.
I respect, and thanks for having me. And anything that you can share with the community about Drexel, access to this if you're in Philadelphia, or like any things that they can find out about what you're doing.
I'm pretty easy to find on the my YouTube channel is Pixel Prof.
Yeah.
And my name is Nick Jushchyshyn, and there's not too many of those.
I haven't seen another one yet.
Actually, you have.
Oh,
yeah, he's
sorry.
over there.
You're right.
But but you know, you could search Drexel and virtual production, or Drexel Nick Jushchyshyn, and you'll find my email address. And so you know, if you or anyone else is in Philly and is interested in checking this out and visiting, you know, just reach out to me and we'll figure it out.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Cool. Well,
Ed, thanks so much for stopping by.
You bet. Thanks for having me. And yeah, come check out Drexel University. Big thanks to them for having us here today, and we'll see you all soon. Take care.